You need to slow down.
No, I need service. Hello? Here, call him back.
Do it yourself. This is, oh my god, using tissue, that's disgusting.
You okay?
You couldn't watch the fucking road?
What the fuck was that? Just wait.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Port channel. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up. Today we're going to be talking about the film Death of a Unicorn, coming out in 2025. The film chronicles the intertwined lives of two sisters, Clara and Isla, whose familial bond is tested by the sudden and surreal arrival of a unicorn. Their parents, Evelyn and Arthur, are depicted as striving but financially strained, a situation that perhaps subtly mirrors the precarious nature of many independent filmmakers trying to break through in the industry. Evelyn, a writer, might find parallels in her own artistic struggles with the character's desperate pursuit of a dream, while Arthur, a former actor himself, could see elements of his own early career ambitions and the compromises that often come with it in the film's narrative. Their desperation to make ends meet, a relatable theme, sets the stage for the extraordinary events that unfold. The discovery of the injured unicorn, a creature of myth and wonder, injects a potent dose of the fantastical into their otherwise mundane reality. The sisters, Clara and Isla, react with a mix of awe and a pragmatic, almost desperate understanding of its potential value. This could be seen as a commentary on how even the most magical of circumstances can be filtered through the lens of human need and ambition. Clara, perhaps more grounded and responsible, grapples with the ethical implications, while Isla, likely more impulsive and drawn to the allure of fame and fortune, sees an immediate opportunity. Their dynamic, a blend of affection and rivalry, is reminiscent of many on-screen sibling relationships that have captivated audiences, often fueled by shared dreams and divergent paths. As they attempt to conceal and care for the unicorn, the sisters find themselves in an increasingly complex and morally ambiguous situation. The pressure to exploit their discovery for personal gain intensifies, leading to clandestine meetings and questionable decisions. This descent into subterfuge can be interpreted as a metaphor for the sacrifices individuals sometimes make in their pursuit of success, particularly in fields where visibility and public perception are paramount. The film likely explores the Faustian bargain they strike, trading innocence for notoriety, a theme that has resonated through countless narratives about the corrupting influence of power and recognition. The unicorn, a symbol of purity and untamed nature, becomes an unwilling participant in their human drama, its existence a constant reminder of the ethical tightrope they walk. The narrative likely builds towards a tragic climax, where the consequences of their actions become unavoidable, leaving the audience to ponder the true cost of dreams realized through morally compromised means. The film's exploration of this theme, set against the backdrop of a fantastical creature, offers a unique and poignant commentary on the human condition and the often blurry lines between aspiration and desperation. Evelyn, the mother, a writer whose own published works, though critically acclaimed in niche circles, never quite achieved the widespread recognition she yearned for, finds a mirror to her own artistic aspirations in the family's predicament. She'd often spoken of the sheer grit required to bring a story to life, the constant hustle and the heartbreaks of rejection, which now seemed to echo in her husband's and daughter's desperate measures. Arthur, her husband, a man who'd once graced the local stage with a quiet intensity, a budding actor who'd seen opportunities dry up like desert streams, brought a performative instinct to their clandestine operations. His past life, filled with the roar of the crowd and the fleeting taste of applause, now seemed to inform his ability to craft convincing lies, a skill honed, ironically, by the very profession that had once promised him so much and ultimately offered little. He understood the hunger for a breakout moment, the desire to finally be seen, and that hunger was now a palpable force in their small, cluttered home. Clara, the elder sister, possessed a quiet strength, a responsibility that felt too heavy for her young shoulders. She carried the weight of her parents' anxieties, their hushed conversations about bills and overdue notices a constant hum in her young mind. Her love for the unicorn, initially born of wonder, quickly became tinged with a fierce protectiveness, a desire to shield the creature from the harsh realities of their world. She saw not a commodity, but a fragile miracle, a living testament to something pure and untainted. This innate empathy, perhaps a trait inherited from her mother's more contemplative writing style, put her at odds with her sister's more pragmatic, almost opportunistic, outlook. Isla, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of ambition and youthful exuberance. Her dreams were painted in broad strokes of glittering success, of red carpets and flashing cameras. The unicorn to her wasn't just a creature, it was a ticket, a golden opportunity to escape the suffocating familiarity of their struggling existence. She was quicker to embrace the deception, her infectious optimism masking a growing ruthlessness. She possessed a natural charisma, the kind that could charm the birds from the trees, a trait that had often landed her in the spotlight, albeit in smaller, less significant ways, throughout her childhood. This innate performance quality, honed through school plays and local talent shows, now served her in their increasingly elaborate charade. Her competitive spirit, always present in her interactions with Clara, now sharpened into a keen edge, fueled by the prospect of a prize that could elevate them all, but especially her. The innocent days of childhood games were long gone, replaced by a high-stakes gamble where the rules were constantly being rewritten. The unicorn's gentle presence, so vulnerable and otherworldly, served as a silent counterpoint to the rising tension between the sisters, a beautiful, bewildered captive in their unfolding human drama. The escalating secrecy and the constant fear of exposure began to wear on the family, weaving a subtle thread of paranoia through their lives. Evelyn, who had always found solace and clarity in her writing, now struggled to articulate the tangled knot of emotion she felt. The very act of creation, once a refuge, felt tainted by the deception. She would sit at her typewriter, the clack of keys usually a familiar comfort, but now each stroke felt like another brick in the wall they were building around themselves. The story of the unicorn, the fantastical element that had initially seemed like a blessing, was morphing into a dark, consuming narrative, mirroring the grim tales she sometimes explored in her more somber works. But this was their reality, far more terrifying than any fiction. Arthur, accustomed to the performative aspect of his past, found himself channeling his dramatic skills into a more desperate, unsavory performance. He became adept at the art of the alibi, the casual deflection, his once earnest gaze now holding a flicker of shrewd calculation. He saw the potential downfall looming, a stark reminder of how quickly fortunes could turn, a lesson he'd learned firsthand from the fleeting nature of the entertainment industry. This constant tension, this performance of normalcy, while harboring an extraordinary secret, was a draining ordeal, and the strain began to show in the subtle lines around his eyes and the way he held himself, a perpetual readiness for confrontation. Clara, bearing the brunt of the ethical burden, found herself increasingly isolated. Her initial awe had given way to a profound sense of guilt and a growing unease. With Isla's escalating ambition, she watched her sister transform, the bright spark in Isla's eyes now burning with a feverish intensity that frightened her. Clara yearned for the simple days before the unicorn's arrival, days filled with shared laughter and uncomplicated affection. The unicorn, sensing the discord, would often rest its head on Clara's lap, its large liquid eyes seeming to understand her distress. It was a bond born of shared vulnerability, a silent communication that offered Clara a small measure of peace in the encroaching chaos. Her protective instincts intensified, not just for the unicorn, but for the fragile remnants of their family's former happiness. A happiness she feared was slipping through their fingers like grains of sand. Isla, however, was on an unstoppable trajectory, propelled by the intoxicating allure of what the unicorn represented. The whispers of potential buyers, the imagined headlines, the sheer power of holding something so rare and valuable, all fueled her drive. She was no longer simply seeking escape. She was actively constructing a new reality for herself, one where she held the reins. Her youthful charm, now amplified by a steely determination, made her a formidable force. She dismissed Clara's concerns as childish anxieties, her own burgeoning pragmatism bordering on ruthlessness. She saw the unicorn not as a living being to be cherished, but as a key to unlocking a life she'd only dreamed of, a life far removed from the financial anxieties that had so long plagued their household. The film likely emphasizes how this desperate pursuit of a dream, stripped of its ethical foundation, could lead to a complete erosion of innocence, transforming a family into a desperate unit bound by a shared, increasingly dangerous secret. The unicorn, the embodiment of magic and purity, became the unwitting catalyst for their descent. Its silent suffering, a stark contrast to their feverish ambition. The weight of their secret grew heavier with each passing day, casting a long shadow over the family's once ordinary existence. Evelyn's writing desk, usually a sanctuary of quiet contemplation, became a battleground for her conscience. The very words she tried to put down, meant to capture the essence of storytelling, felt hollow, corrupted by the unspoken truths that permeated their home. She'd often found inspiration in the resilience of ordinary people facing extraordinary odds, a theme that resonated deeply with her own past struggles to get her work published. Now, however, the line between fiction and reality blurred so dangerously that the act of writing itself felt like a betrayal of the purity the unicorn represented. Arthur, a man who'd once dreamt of embodying heroes on stage, found himself playing a more complex, darker role. His natural charisma, a tool that had once served him well in the audition room, was now employed to construct an elaborate facade of normalcy, deflecting suspicious glances and fabricating alibis with a practiced ease that unnerved even himself. He understood the intoxicating power of performance, the hunger for an audience. But this was a performance he never imagined, one where the stakes were not applause, but ruin. The constant vigilance, the perpetual state of alert, etched deeper lines of worry onto his face, a silent testament to the emotional toll of their perilous game. Clara, the dutiful elder sister, felt the moral quandary gnawing at her soul. Her initial wonder at the unicorn's existence had been replaced by a suffocating guilt and a growing alarm at Isla's unwavering pursuit of profit. She observed Isla's transformation with a mixture of dismay and fear. The carefree sparkle in her sister's eyes had mutated into a predatory gleam. Clara longed for the simplicity of their childhood, for the days when shared secrets were about silly crushes and not about the potential sale of a mythical creature. The unicorn, as if sensing the growing rift between the sisters, would often seek solace with Clara, its gentle nuzzle a silent acknowledgement of her distress. This quiet communion offered Clara a fragile anchor in the storm of deception, reinforcing her resolve to protect not just the unicorn, but the last vestiges of their family's fractured peace. She saw their current predicament as a stark departure from the stories her mother used to read her, tales of bravery and kindness, and she feared they were becoming the villains of their own unfolding narrative. Isla, however, remained undeterred, her ambition a runaway train fueled by the intoxicating promise of wealth and recognition. The whispered rumors of potential buyers, the imagined headlines, the sheer power of possessing something so rare and coveted, all drove her forward with a relentless intensity. She was no longer merely seeking an escape from their circumstances. She was actively architecting a new life, one where she dictated the terms. Her youthful charm, now hardened by an unwavering determination, made her a formidable adversary. She dismissed Clara's qualms as childish sentimentality, her pragmatic approach hardening into a ruthlessness that shocked Clara. Isla viewed the unicorn not as a sentient being deserving of compassion, but as the ultimate key to unlocking a life far removed from the suffocating anxieties of poverty. The film's narrative likely emphasizes how this unbridled pursuit of a dream, stripped of its ethical moorings, could lead to the complete forfeiture of innocence, transforming a family into a desperate unit bound by a shared, increasingly dangerous secret. The unicorn, a creature of pure magic and untamed grace, became the unwilling architect of their moral decay, its silent suffering a poignant counterpoint to their feverish, self-serving ambitions. The climax of their desperate gambit arrives not with a bang, but with a sickening thud. The precarious balance they've maintained, built on lies and escalating compromises, finally shatters. Perhaps it's an accidental revelation, a careless word, or a piece of evidence too damning to conceal. The outside world, an entity they've so desperately tried to keep at bay, intrudes with a brutal finality. The authorities, alerted by a concerned neighbor, a disgruntled acquaintance, or perhaps even one of their own internal cracks, descend. Evelyn, who had poured her unspoken anxieties into the imagined worlds of her stories, finds her own narrative unraveling in the most unforgiving way. Arthur's carefully constructed performance crumbles, revealing the desperate father beneath the seasoned actor. He might recall the fleeting nature of applause, the hollow echo of a standing ovation when the rent was still due, a bitter parallel to his current predicament. Clara, her heart heavy with the weight of her complicity, faces the stark reality of the consequences. Her protectiveness towards the unicorn intensifies, now a desperate plea against the inevitable. She might try to shield it, a futile gesture against the encroaching forces of law and order, a testament to her enduring innocence and empathy. Her quiet strength fractures under the immense pressure, revealing the child beneath the responsible facade. Isla, her ambition momentarily blindsided, perhaps attempts a final desperate maneuver. Her charisma, once a tool for charm and persuasion, might now be used to manipulate, to bargain, to deny. But the tide has turned, and her youthful exuberance gives way to a chilling pragmatism, a realization that even her sharpest instincts cannot outmaneuver fate when it's been so directly courted. The unicorn, its magical aura dimmed by the harsh glare of reality, becomes a symbol of their shattered dreams and the irreversible damage wrought by their pursuit. The ending, devoid of easy resolutions, likely leaves the audience contemplating the devastating cost of unchecked ambition, the corruption of innocence, and the haunting question of whether any dream is worth the sacrifice of one's humanity, a theme that resonates deeply within the very fabric of cinematic storytelling, especially for those artists who have themselves navigated the treacherous paths of the industry, forever chasing the elusive unicorn of success. The family's carefully constructed world implodes, not with the dramatic crescendo of a Hollywood thriller, but with the mundane, chilling efficiency of inevitable consequence. Evelyn, whose creative spirit had always been a beacon, now finds herself adrift in a sea of legal jargon and societal judgment. The story she spun from the quiet of her mind, tales of redemption and struggle, offered no solace now. Her inherent empathy, the very quality that made her writing so compelling, now made her keenly aware of the harm inflicted. She might recall moments from her early writing career, the thrill of a first publication, the subsequent quiet disappearances of books from shelves, the gnawing uncertainty of artistic validation, and how that hunger for recognition, once a driving force, had morphed into a destructive obsession. Arthur, the former actor, is forced to confront a role far removed from the stage. His performative instincts, so adept at weaving illusions, now fail him against the unyielding reality of the law. The applause he once craved feels like a distant, mocking echo. He likely sees his past career as a series of near misses and lost opportunities, a stark reminder of how the pursuit of a dream, even a noble one, can leave one vulnerable to desperation. His attempts to shield his family are now clumsy, his practiced charm replaced by raw fear. Clara, the silent witness to their unraveling, stands firm in her commitment to the unicorn. Her protectiveness, once a quiet resolve, becomes a fierce defiance against the encroaching forces of authority. She might envision the unicorn as the protagonist of one of her mother's early hopeful stories, a creature of pure goodness caught in a world of shadows. Her youthful idealism, so often overshadowed by her parents' anxieties, now emerges as a powerful moral compass. She sees the unicorn's plight as a reflection of their own lost innocence, a captive of their flawed ambitions. Her empathy, a trait she shares with Evelyn, becomes her greatest strength, even as it exposes her to profound heartbreak. Isla, stripped of her carefully cultivated veneer of control, faces the starkest of realities. Her ambition, once a source of boundless energy, now fuels a desperate, almost feral self-preservation. The allure of fame and fortune evaporates, replaced by the cold, hard truth of her actions. Her youthful charisma, so effective in navigating social circles, now falls flat against the unyielding faces of law enforcement. She might remember the thrill of being the center of attention in school plays, the easy adulation, and how that desire for recognition had blinded her to the true cost of her desires. The film likely closes with a profound sense of loss, not just for the unicorn, but for the family's fractured bonds and the innocence irrevocably extinguished. The final images might linger on the quiet grief of Clara, the somber resignation of Evelyn and Arthur, and the dawning bitter realization in Isla's eyes, leaving the audience to ponder the devastating consequences of chasing mythical dreams in a world that demands a harsh accounting for every misstep. The narrative serves as a cautionary tale, deeply resonant for anyone who has ever felt the intoxicating pull of ambition and the insidious nature of compromise, especially within the fiercely competitive landscape of creative endeavors. The aftermath of their grand deception settles not as a cathartic release, but as a suffocating blanket of despair. Evelyn, whose pen had always been her conduit to understanding the human condition, now finds herself a subject of its harshest critique. The narratives she once crafted, filled with nuanced characters grappling with societal pressures and personal demons, offered no blueprint for navigating this very real, very public downfall. Her literary aspirations, once a source of pride, now felt like a cruel irony, a testament to a world of imagination far removed from the grim reality of legal proceedings. She might recall the quiet satisfaction of a well-turned phrase, a carefully constructed plot, and contrast it with the chaotic, messy unraveling of her own life, a story far too bleak for any of her novels. Arthur, the man who had once commanded stages with a quiet intensity, now felt a profound emptiness where the roar of the audience used to be. His past experiences, a tapestry of near misses and unfulfilled potential in the acting world, now seemed to have prepared him for this moment in the most unexpected way. As a participant in a tragic drama of his own making, his charm, his ability to inhabit a role, now felt like a hollow performance against the stoic faces of authorities. The hunger for recognition, once a driving force in his career, had morphed into a desperate need for absolution, a yearning for a chance to rewrite his own script. Clara, her youthful idealism shattered but not extinguished, finds a quiet strength in her unwavering devotion to the unicorn. Her role as protector, initially a response to her sister's ambition, now becomes a deeply personal mission. She sees the creature not as a prize or a problem, but as a sentient being wronged by their collective avarice, a silent testament to their lost humanity. The unicorn, sensing her genuine affection, remains a source of comfort, its presence a constant reminder of the purity they had so carelessly endangered. Clara's emotional landscape, once overshadowed by her parents' anxieties and her sister's drive, now comes into sharp, heartbreaking focus. She embodies the film's moral core, her quiet grief a powerful indictment of their choices. Isla, the architect of their downfall, confronts the wreckage of her ambition. The intoxicating allure of fame and fortune dissipates, replaced by the cold, hard reality of her isolation. Her charisma, once a potent weapon, now feels impotent against the unyielding weight of consequence. She might revisit memories of childhood triumphs, of school plays where her talent was lauded, and realize how that early taste of admiration had blinded her to the deeper truths of empathy and responsibility. The film likely concludes by leaving the audience with a profound sense of melancholy, a somber reflection on the corrosive power of unchecked ambition and the irreversible damage it can inflict. The final scenes might linger on the quiet dignity of Clara's grief, the weary resignation etched onto Evelyn and Arthur's faces, and the dawning bitter regret in Isla's eyes, serving as a powerful, unforgettable commentary on the price of dreams pursued without regard for morality. It is a narrative that speaks to the universal human struggle between aspiration and integrity, a cautionary tale whispered in the language of myth and human frailty. The weight of their actions settles upon them like a shroud, a perpetual reminder of the stolen innocence and the shattered dreams. Evelyn, the writer, finds her once fertile imagination barren, the wellspring of her creativity poisoned by guilt. Her attempts to find solace in her craft, to weave narratives of redemption and understanding, feel like a hollow mockery. The characters she once brought to life, flawed but relatable, now seem to mock her own deep-seated flaws. She may look back at her published works, each a piece of her soul laid bare, and see in them a foreshadowing of this very descent, a subconscious exploration of the dark corners of human desire and its potential for ruin. Arthur, the former actor, is left to inhabit a role he never auditioned for, a man haunted by regret. The applause he once craved, the validation he sought on stage, now echoes in the silent chambers of his conscience, a stark reminder of the emptiness that ambition can leave behind. He understands with a crushing finality that the greatest performance is not one enacted for an audience, but one lived with integrity, a performance he has tragically failed. Clara, the quiet anchor of the family, continues to bear the heaviest burden. Her empathy, once a source of comfort, now becomes a conduit for a profound and unending grief. The unicorn, the symbol of their downfall, remains a constant silent testament to their moral failings. Its presence is a perpetual ache, a stark contrast to the vibrant magic it once represented. She might find herself drawn to the quiet, forgotten corners of their lives, seeking refuge in the remnants of a happier past, clinging to the hope that some semblance of their former selves might still be salvageable. Her journey becomes one of quiet resilience, a testament to the enduring power of compassion in the face of overwhelming loss. Isla, the driving force behind their descent, is left to grapple with the desolate landscape of her ambition. The glittering prizes she so desperately sought have dissolved into ashes, leaving behind a bitter taste of isolation and regret. Her youthful exuberance has curdled into a hard-won pragmatism, a chilling understanding of the irreversible damage she has wrought. She may recall the easy adulation of her childhood, the superficial triumphs, and recognize how that hunger for external validation had blinded her to the true meaning of fulfillment. The film's conclusion likely offers no easy redemption, no neat tying up of loose ends. Instead, it leaves the audience with a lingering sense of melancholy, a profound meditation on the human capacity for both wonder and destruction. The narrative serves as a poignant reminder that even the most magical of circumstances can be twisted and corrupted by the insatiable hunger for more, a theme that has resonated through countless stories, particularly within the fiercely competitive and often unforgiving world of artistic endeavor, where the pursuit of the extraordinary can so easily lead to the unraveling of the ordinary. The family, once bound by a shared struggle and the unexpected marvel of their mythical guest, is now fractured, each member wrestling with the ghosts of their choices. Evelyn, the writer, finds her creative wellspring choked by the bitter taste of regret. The stories she once conjured, tales of human frailty and resilience, now feel like a personal indictment. The meticulous craft she poured into her published works, the quiet pursuit of literary recognition, now seems a naive distraction from the profound ethical compromises she allowed. She might recall the quiet hum of the printing press, the anticipation of seeing her words in the world, and contrast it with the deafening silence that now surrounds her, the weight of unspoken accusations far heavier than any literary critique. Arthur, the actor who once dreamed of inhabiting grand narratives, is now trapped in a personal drama of his own making, a role stripped of any glamour. The thrill of a live audience, the fleeting validation of applause, feels like a distant memory, a cruel echo in the hollow space left by his choices. He understands with a bone-deep weariness that the most profound performances are not those on a stage, but those lived with a clear conscience. His past career, a tapestry of near misses and the ever-present hunger for a breakthrough, had perhaps inadvertently prepared him for this. The ultimate role of a father who failed to protect his family from their own destructive desires. Clara, the quiet heart of this fractured unit, continues to be the unwavering guardian of the unicorn's memory, and by extension, their lost innocence. Her empathy, a trait that once made her a sensitive observer, now fuels a profound and quiet sorrow. The unicorn, the beautiful, bewildered creature, remains a spectral presence, a silent indictment of their greed. It is a constant reminder of the purity they had so carelessly trampled. She might find herself drawn to the faded photographs of happier times, the remnants of a family life that feels irrevocably altered, clinging to the faint hope that fragments of their former selves can still be salvaged from the wreckage. Her journey is one of enduring compassion, a quiet testament to the power of love in the face of devastating loss. Isla, the architect of their descent, is left to navigate the desolate landscape of her ambition's aftermath. The glittering prizes she chased have turned to dust, leaving behind a barren terrain of isolation and bitter regret. Her youthful exuberance has hardened into a chilling pragmatism, a raw understanding of the irreversible damage she has inflicted. She might revisit the echoes of childhood accolades, the easy praise that fueled her early desires, and recognize how that superficial validation had overshadowed a deeper understanding of empathy and responsibility. The film's conclusion likely offers no easy absolution, no magical erasure of their transgressions. Instead, it leaves the audience with a profound sense of melancholy, a somber contemplation of the human capacity for both transcendent wonder and devastating self-destruction. The narrative serves as a poignant fable, a stark reminder that even the most extraordinary gifts, when touched by the insatiable human hunger for more, can become the instruments of our own undoing. This theme, deeply embedded in the human experience, finds a particular resonance in the often turbulent world of artistic creation, where the pursuit of the extraordinary can so easily lead to the profound loss of the ordinary. The family's carefully constructed facade crumbles, leaving them exposed to the harsh glare of consequence. Evelyn, the writer, finds her once vibrant inner world now a desolate landscape of guilt. The story she wove, rich with the complexities of human nature, offered no escape from her own profound moral failings. The ink on her pages, once a symbol of her creative spirit, now felt like a stain, a permanent mark of her complicity. She might recall the thrill of holding her first published book, the quiet validation of her craft, and contrast it with the deafening silence of her present, a silence punctuated by the whispers of judgment. Arthur, the actor, finds himself stripped of his roles, forced to confront a reality far more stark than any dramatic stage. The applause he once chased now felt like a mocking phantom, a hollow echo of a past life he can no longer inhabit. His past career, marked by a yearning for recognition and a series of near misses, had inadvertently honed his ability to perform, but not for this. A performance of regret and a desperate plea for understanding. His ambition, once a driving force, now felt like a corrosive agent eating away at the very core of his being. Clara, the steadfast heart of this broken family, remains the silent guardian of their lost innocence, her empathy a constant ache. The unicorn, a creature of pure magic, now stands as a spectral testament to their collective avarice. Its gentle presence, once a source of wonder, now serves as a perpetual reminder of the purity they had so carelessly defiled. She might retreat into the quiet, forgotten corners of their lives, seeking solace in the faded photographs of a happier past, clinging to the fragile hope that some echo of their former selves might still resonate within them. Her journey is one of quiet endurance, a testament to the enduring power of compassion in the face of profound loss. Isla, the architect of their downfall, is left to confront the barren wasteland of her ambition. The glittering prizes she so fervently pursued have crumbled into dust, leaving behind a chilling landscape of isolation and bitter regret. Her youthful exuberance has been replaced by a hard-won pragmatism, a raw and unflinching understanding of the irreversible damage she has inflicted. She might revisit the sweet echoes of childhood accolades, the superficial triumphs that once fueled her desires, and realize with dawning horror how that hunger for external validation had blinded her to the deeper truths of empathy and responsibility. The film's conclusion offers no easy absolution, no magical balm to soothe their wounds. Instead, it leaves the audience with a profound sense of melancholy, a somber meditation on the human capacity for both transcendent wonder and devastating self-destruction. This theme, deeply embedded in the human experience, finds a particular resonance in the often turbulent world of artistic creation, where the pursuit of the extraordinary can so easily lead to the profound loss of the ordinary, a pursuit akin to chasing the elusive, mythical unicorn itself. The final act of their desperate play unfolds not in a grand theater, but in the stark, unforgiving light of day. The authorities, alerted by unseen eyes, and perhaps the sheer implausibility of their prolonged secrecy, descend upon their lives with an unceremonious finality. Evelyn, whose stories had always explored the intricate dance between hope and despair, finds herself living her most tragic narrative. The character she once sculpted from imagination now seemed to whisper accusations from the shadows of her conscience. Her literary ambition, once a beacon of purpose, now feels like a cruel irony, a testament to a world of imagined triumphs that couldn't shield her from the harsh realities of her choices. She may recall the quiet pride of seeing her name on a book cover, a tangible piece of her soul shared with the world, and contrast it with the profound emptiness of her present, where her actions speak louder and far more damningly than any written word. Arthur, the former actor, faces his most challenging role yet, a man utterly exposed, stripped of his performative armor. The applause he once craved, the fleeting validation of a captivated audience, now feels like a mocking echo from a life he can no longer reclaim. His career, a tapestry of near misses and the persistent hum of unfulfilled potential, had perhaps inadvertently prepared him for this moment, not as a performer, but as a man confronting the devastating consequences of his own compromised ambition. His desire for recognition, once a driving force, has soured into a desperate yearning for absolution, a silent plea to rewrite the script of his life. Clara, the steadfast heart of their fractured family, continues her role as the unwitting guardian of their lost innocence. Her empathy, once a quiet strength, now serves as a conduit for a deep and persistent sorrow. The unicorn, the creature of myth and magic, remains a spectral presence, a silent testament to their collective greed and moral failing. Its ethereal beauty, once a source of wonder, now serves as a constant, poignant reminder of the purity they so carelessly desecrated. She might find herself drawn to the remnants of their past, to faded photographs and forgotten trinkets, clinging to the faint hope that some fragment of their former happiness, some echo of their lost selves, might still be salvageable from the wreckage of their choices. Her journey is one of quiet resilience, a testament to the enduring power of compassion in the face of overwhelming loss, and a silent indictment of the choices that led them to this precipice. Isla, the architect of their collective downfall, is left to confront the desolate landscape of her ambition's aftermath. The glittering prizes she so ardently pursued have dissolved into dust and regret, leaving behind a chilling isolation. Her youthful exuberance has been irrevocably tempered by a hard-won and deeply bitter pragmatism, a raw and unflinching understanding of the irreversible damage she has wrought. She may revisit the sweet echoes of childhood accolades, the superficial triumphs that once fueled her desires, and realize with a dawning horror how that insatiable hunger for external validation had blinded her to the deeper, more profound truths of empathy and responsibility. The film's conclusion offers no easy absolution, no magical erasure of their transgressions. This theme, deeply embedded in the human experience, finds a particular resonance in the often turbulent world of artistic creation, where the pursuit of the extraordinary can so easily lead to the profound loss of the ordinary. A pursuit akin to chasing the elusive, mythical unicorn itself, a journey that promises magic, but often delivers only ashes. The legal repercussions cast a long shadow. Their small house, once a haven of whispered secrets and desperate hopes, becoming a sterile environment of questioning and judgment. Evelyn, her writer's intuition now a burden, sees the sterile interrogation rooms as a twisted version of her meticulously crafted fictional settings. But this time, the stakes are terrifyingly real. The lines between author and character blur. She is no longer observing human foibles from a distance, but living them, her own narrative unraveling with brutal honesty. She might find herself recalling the thrill of a critique, the careful dissection of her prose, and feel a perverse longing for that intellectual rigor, a stark contrast to the cold, factual pronouncements of the legal system. The hunger for recognition, which had once driven her artistic endeavors, now manifests as a gnawing desire for escape, a desperate wish to be unseen, unheard, and unjudged. Arthur, the former actor, finds his most challenging role not on a stage, but in the witness box. His performative instinct, honed by years of inhabiting different characters, is now turned against him, his every hesitant word scrutinized. He sees his past opportunities, the roles he almost landed, the applause that never quite echoed loud enough as a prelude to this devastating scene. The hunger for a breakout moment, for that one defining role, has led him to a role he can never escape. His once expressive eyes now hold a perpetual shadow of dread, a constant performance of a man wrestling with profound regret and the knowledge that his family's dreams have become his own public downfall. Clara, the quiet observer of their unraveling, finds her protective instincts amplified to a fever pitch. The unicorn, now a confiscated asset, a symbol of their shared transgression, is her sole focus. Her empathy, once a gentle current, becomes a raging river of desperation. She might imagine herself as a character in one of her mother's earlier, more hopeful stories, a brave knight defending a mythical creature against the encroaching darkness of human greed. Her small hands, once used for drawing and helping her mother, now clench with a fierce resolve to shield the unicorn from further harm, even if it means standing alone against the formidable machinery of justice. Her silence in the face of interrogation becomes a powerful statement, her unwillingness to betray the creature a testament to her unblemished moral compass. Isla, her ambition now a bitter ash in her mouth, faces the starkest of consequences. The red carpets and flashing cameras she once envisioned have been replaced by the cold, sterile corridors of legal offices. Her charisma, once a tool for swift persuasion, now falls flat against the unyielding faces of law enforcement. She might recall the thrill of winning local talent shows, the effortless adoration of classmates, and feel a profound sense of loss for that innocent pursuit of praise. The ruthlessness that had fueled her drive now curdles into a chilling pragmatism, a stark realization that even her sharpest wits cannot outmaneuver the inexorable march of justice. The unicorn, the embodiment of pure magic, now represents a devastating lesson. That the most beautiful dreams, when corrupted by unchecked desire, can leave only wreckage in their wake. The film likely leaves the audience contemplating the enduring scars left by such a descent, the slow, arduous process of rebuilding lives fractured by a dream that promised paradise but delivered only ruin. The unicorn's fate and the family's remains a haunting question, a testament to the fragile boundary between aspiration and destruction. The much-anticipated Death of a Unicorn, directed by the visionary Alex Brewer, emerges as a darkly comedic exploration of grief, familial obligation, and the absurdities of modern existence. The film masterfully blends a surreal premise with grounded emotional performances, creating a narrative that is both unsettling and profoundly resonant. At its core, the story revolves around the ailing unicorn belonging to a wealthy and eccentric family, a creature whose impending demise becomes the catalyst for a series of increasingly bizarre and desperate actions undertaken by the family's daughters. The casting of Anya Taylor-Joy as one of the daughters is a stroke of genius. Her ethereal presence and ability to convey a whirlwind of emotions with subtle glances perfectly capture the character's internal turmoil. Taylor-Joy, no stranger to genre-bending and challenging roles, having captivated audiences in films like The Witch and Split, brings a raw vulnerability that anchors the film's more fantastical elements. Her career trajectory, marked by a willingness to embrace the unconventional and the psychologically complex, makes her an ideal interpreter for this material. One can imagine her drawing inspiration from the stark realism of performances in films like Parasite, or the existential angst explored in Bergman's Persona, as she navigates the increasingly desperate measures her character takes. Complementing Taylor-Joy is a strong ensemble cast, each member contributing to the film's rich tapestry of dysfunction. The dynamic between the sisters, fraught with a shared history of privilege and unspoken resentments, forms the emotional backbone of the narrative. The film doesn't shy away from portraying their flaws, their selfishness, and their deep-seated fear of loss. This authenticity in their flawed humanity makes their extreme reactions to the unicorn's fate all the more compelling. The visual language of Death of a Unicorn is as striking as its narrative. Brewer, whose previous work often features a distinct aesthetic, imbues the film with a dreamlike quality that blurs the lines between reality and fantasy. The opulent setting of the family estate, contrasted with the increasingly chaotic events unfolding within its walls, creates a palpable sense of unease. This visual storytelling, where every frame seems meticulously crafted, draws parallels to the meticulous world-building found in Wes Anderson's films, albeit with a considerably darker and more twisted sensibility. The inspiration for such visual richness could easily stem from classic Gothic literature or even surrealist art movements, where the ordinary is rendered extraordinary and unsettling. The film's exploration of the unicorn itself is not merely a plot device, but a potent metaphor. It represents innocence, magic, and perhaps even a dying ideal in a world that has become increasingly cynical and materialistic. The family's desperate attempts to prolong its life, or conversely to exploit its dying moments, speak volumes about their own internal decay. This metaphorical weight elevates the film beyond a simple dark comedy, inviting deeper contemplation on themes of mortality, legacy, and the often unseen burdens of wealth. The humor in Death of a Unicorn is decidedly black. It arises from the characters' absurd pronouncements, their morally questionable decisions, and the sheer ridiculousness of their predicament. Yet beneath the laughter, there is a profound sadness. The film is a poignant reminder that even in the most outlandish of circumstances, the core human emotions of love, fear, and grief remain. This delicate balance between comedy and tragedy is a hallmark of great storytelling, and Brewer achieves it with remarkable skill. The film's ability to elicit laughter and tears in equal measure suggests an inspiration drawn from filmmakers who have mastered this tonal tightrope, perhaps the Coen brothers, or even the darkly witty narratives of Martin McDonagh. In conclusion, Death of a Unicorn is a bold and memorable cinematic experience. It is a film that challenges its audience, provoking thought and conversation long after the credits roll. With its exceptional performances, striking visuals, and a narrative that masterfully navigates the absurd and the profound, it solidifies Alex Brewer's position as a director with a singular vision and a keen understanding of the human condition, even when that condition is presented through the lens of a dying mythical creature. The weight of legacy, both inherited and self-imposed, hangs heavy over the characters, particularly as the unicorn's existence dwindles. Anya Taylor-Joy's portrayal of the elder sister, for instance, is not just about the outward performance of grief, but the internal unraveling. Her every hesitant step, the way her eyes dart around as if searching for an escape that doesn't exist, speaks to a deep-seated fear of inadequacy. This is a woman who has lived her life within the gilded cage of her family's expectations, and the unicorn's decline mirrors her own perceived stagnation. One can almost see her channeling the quiet desperation of characters from Ingmar Bergman's domestic dramas, where the unspoken is often the most potent form of communication. Her career, marked by such intelligent and nuanced performances in films that delve into the psychological, suggests a profound empathy for characters grappling with immense internal pressures, making her understanding of this role feel deeply intuitive. The younger sister, perhaps more overtly volatile, serves as a fascinating counterpoint. Her reactions, often impulsive and driven by a more immediate primal fear, reveal a different facet of the family's shared trauma. The dynamic between the siblings is a masterclass in sibling rivalry, amplified by extreme circumstances. Their arguments are not just about the unicorn. They are about years of unspoken resentments, perceived favoritism, and the fundamental differences in how they process pain. The film excels at showing how shared tragedy can either forge unbreakable bonds or shatter them into irreparable pieces. And here, it does both simultaneously. The film doesn't offer easy answers or redemption, instead presenting these characters with all their messy, contradictory humanity, a trait that makes their desperate, often comical actions feel disturbingly believable. The setting itself, the sprawling, slightly decaying family estate, becomes a character in its own right. Brewer's visual direction imbues the location with a palpable sense of history and melancholic grandeur. Sunlight filters through dusty windows, illuminating elaborate heirlooms that feel less like treasures and more like relics of a forgotten past. This atmosphere, reminiscent of the haunted manors in classic Gothic novels, creates a sense of claustrophobia, trapping the characters within their own emotional landscape. The meticulous attention to detail in each frame, from the faded tapestries to the unnerving stillness of the gardens, suggests an artistic vision that prioritizes mood and subtext, akin to the detailed mise-en-scène found in films by directors like Guillermo del Toro, who masterfully blends the fantastical with a sense of grounded reality and historical weight. The unicorn as an entity embodies a fading magic in a world increasingly dominated by pragmatism. Its suffering is not just physical, it is symbolic of a loss of wonder and innocence that the family, in their own self-absorbed way, desperately tries to cling to, or, in their more cynical moments, exploit. The film's genius lies in its ability to make this surreal premise feel emotionally true. The character's attachment to the unicorn, however bizarre their actions, stems from a very human place. The fear of finality, the desire to hold on to something beautiful, and the deep, instinctual need to confront mortality, even in the most unconventional of ways. This existential undercurrent, woven through the fabric of the narrative, is what elevates the film from a mere curiosity to a profound meditation on life, death, and the absurdities we create to cope with both. The humor, while sharp and often biting, serves as a crucial release valve, allowing the audience to laugh at the absurdity while simultaneously acknowledging the underlying sadness and vulnerability of the human spirit. The unspoken anxieties surrounding the family's financial precariousness also seep into the narrative, adding another layer of desperation to their actions. The unicorn, with its inherent value and mythical status, becomes a potential, albeit macabre, solution to their mounting problems, or at least a distraction from them. This pragmatic, almost transactional approach to a magical creature highlights the cynical undercurrent of their privileged existence. Taylor-Joy's character, burdened by the weight of maintaining this facade of opulence, finds herself increasingly drawn into the morally ambiguous decisions, her initial revulsion slowly giving way to a chilling pragmatism. Her journey is one of confronting the ugly truths beneath the veneer of wealth and tradition, a descent into a moral gray area that many of her previous roles have explored with remarkable insight. The inspiration for such a complex character arc could easily be found in the internal struggles of protagonists from classic literature, where societal pressures and personal desires collide with devastating consequences. The supporting cast members, each embodying a distinct brand of dysfunction, further enrich the film's tapestry of familial discord. The matriarch, a spectral presence whose influence looms large despite her potential absence, represents the deeply ingrained traditions and expectations that have shaped the daughters' lives. The patriarch, if present, would likely embody a different kind of detached responsibility, a figure who has facilitated the family's wealth, but perhaps not their emotional well-being. Their collective failures create the fertile ground upon which the unicorn's tragic fate unfolds. The film's ability to imbue even minor characters with a sense of history and internal motivation is a testament to Brewer's directorial skill and his commitment to building a world that feels lived in and complex, even in its absurdity. The visual storytelling continues to be a key element, with Brewer employing a palette that shifts from the warm, nostalgic glow of memory to the stark, almost clinical coldness of their current predicament. The unicorn itself is depicted with a haunting beauty, its ethereal glow contrasting sharply with the increasingly grim reality of its decline. This visual duality mirrors the film's tonal tightrope walk, where moments of genuine magic are juxtaposed with scenes of gut-wrenching desperation and darkly comedic absurdity. The film's aesthetic choices, drawing from surrealist paintings and unsettling dreamscapes, create an immersive experience that lingers long after viewing. The meticulous attention to detail in the production design, from the overgrown gardens hinting at neglect to the opulent but dusty interiors, all contribute to a pervasive atmosphere of unease and melancholic beauty, a world that is both captivating and deeply unsettling. The film's exploration of the unicorn's sentience, or perceived sentience, becomes a profound mirror to the family's own humanity, or lack thereof. As the creature weakens, so too does the family's grip on civility and morality. Their attempts to communicate with it, to interpret its pain as a reflection of their own existential dread, are both pathetic and deeply poignant. There's a subtext here about our inability to truly connect with the other, whether it be an animal, a loved one, or even an abstract concept like magic itself. in a world increasingly governed by logic and tangible outcomes. This struggle for understanding, for meaning in the face of inexplicable suffering, echoes the profound philosophical inquiries found in the works of Camus or existentialist thinkers, where the absurd nature of existence is laid bare. The characters' reactions, driven by a primal fear of the unknown and the inevitable, can be seen as a microcosm of humanity's broader struggle with mortality. The inherent tension between the fantastical premise and the grounded emotional performances is where Death of a Unicorn truly shines. While the existence of a dying unicorn is the central conceit, the film never allows it to overshadow the very human drama unfolding around it. The sisters' arguments, their moments of shared fear, their attempts to rationalize their increasingly abhorrent behavior, these are all deeply relatable, even as the circumstances are utterly bizarre. This ability to ground the surreal in palpable emotion is a hallmark of Brewer's directorial approach, drawing parallels to the way directors like Spike Jonze can infuse fantastical worlds with a raw emotional authenticity, making the extraordinary feel intimately human. The inspiration for this blend could also stem from the magical realism prevalent in literature, where the impossible is presented as ordinary, allowing for deeper exploration of emotional truths. The narrative's pacing is meticulously crafted, allowing the initial absurdity to slowly morph into a more profound sense of dread. The humor, which initially serves as a coping mechanism for both the characters and the audience, gradually gives way to a more somber contemplation of the consequences of their choices. There are moments of genuine horror, not in the jump scare sense, but in the chilling realization of how far these characters are willing to go. This slow-burn approach to escalating tension and emotional impact is reminiscent of the masterful storytelling in films like Hereditary, where familial trauma and unsettling events are intertwined to create a deeply disturbing yet compelling experience. The film avoids easy resolutions, opting instead for a conclusion that is as ambiguous and unsettling as the premise itself, leaving the audience to grapple with the lingering implications of the family's descent. The visual metaphor of the dying unicorn extends beyond its symbolic representation of lost magic. It becomes a poignant commentary on the family's own decay, both emotional and perhaps even moral. As the creature's life force wanes, so too does the sisters' capacity for empathy and rational thought. Their increasingly desperate measures, born from a cocktail of fear, privilege, and a profound inability to confront loss, create a disturbing spectacle. Anya Taylor-Joy's character, in particular, embodies this descent. Her initial stoicism gradually erodes, revealing a raw vulnerability and a terrifying pragmatism. We see glimpses of the ingrained sense of entitlement that has shielded her from the harsh realities of the world, now crumbling as she grapples with a situation far beyond her comprehension or control. Her career has consistently shown an aptitude for portraying characters on the precipice of psychological breakdown, and here she navigates that edge with a breathtaking, unsettling grace. One can imagine her drawing inspiration from the stoic resilience and internal turmoil of characters portrayed by actresses like Isabel Huppert in her more challenging roles, characters who confront their own dark impulses with a chilling clarity. The supporting cast plays a crucial role in amplifying the film's central themes of dysfunction and delusion. Each sibling, distinct in their coping mechanisms, highlights the fragmented nature of the family's collective trauma. Their interactions are laced with the bitter residue of unspoken grievances, a lifetime of subtle manipulations, and the suffocating weight of shared history. The film masterfully depicts how trauma can fracture even the strongest bonds, forcing individuals to retreat into their own distorted realities. The humor that arises from their outlandish behavior is not cathartic. It's a desperate attempt to deflect from the uncomfortable truth of their shared culpability. This dark, almost farcical depiction of familial breakdown suggests an influence from the bleak, yet darkly comic narratives of playwrights like Edward Albee, where the superficial politeness of society masks a simmering cauldron of resentment and psychological torment. Brewer's directorial hand is evident in every meticulously framed shot, each one contributing to the film's pervasive atmosphere of unease. The opulent setting, once a symbol of the family's status, now feels like a gilded cage, its grandeur slowly being consumed by neglect and the unfolding tragedy. The contrast between the pristine, almost sterile beauty of the estate and the increasingly chaotic and morally compromised actions of its inhabitants is a visual representation of their internal state. The film's visual language draws heavily from the unsettling stillness of a Hopper painting, combined with the surreal juxtapositions found in the works of filmmakers like David Lynch. The deliberate choice of muted colors, punctuated by sudden bursts of disquieting imagery, creates a dreamlike quality that blurs the lines between the real and the imagined, mirroring the character's own warped perceptions of reality. The unicorn itself, when glimpsed, is bathed in an otherworldly light, a fleeting vision of purity in a world rapidly descending into moral ambiguity. The film's climax is not a grand, explosive event, but a quiet, devastating unraveling, mirroring the gradual decline of the unicorn. The sisters' final attempts to grapple with their situation are less about salvation and more about containment, a desperate effort to manage the fallout of their choices. Taylor-Joy's character, having shed her initial veneer of composure, is now a raw nerve, her eyes reflecting a profound, weary resignation. Her journey is a chilling exploration of how societal pressures, familial legacy, and the sheer terror of facing the void can corrupt even the most seemingly poised individuals. The inspiration for such a raw, visceral performance could be found in the unflinching portrayals of female psychological turmoil in films by filmmakers like Michael Haneke, where the banality of evil is exposed with devastating effect. The lack of a clear antagonist, with the family's own internal failings serving as the primary source of conflict, makes their predicament all the more compelling and tragically relatable. The humor throughout the film, though dark and often uncomfortable, serves a crucial purpose. It acts as a pressure release valve for the immense tension and existential dread that permeates the narrative. These moments of black comedy are not gratuitous. They are integral to the film's exploration of how humans cope with the absurdities of life and death. The characters' witty, often callous remarks, their bizarre rationalizations for their actions, all speak to a deeply human need to find levity in the face of overwhelming despair. This delicate balance between the tragic and the comedic is a hallmark of Brewer's storytelling, suggesting an admiration for the tonal nuances found in the works of the Coen brothers, whose films often feature deeply flawed characters, navigating morally ambiguous situations with a darkly humorous edge. The final moments of Death of a Unicorn leave the audience with a lingering sense of unease and a multitude of questions. There are no easy answers, no neat resolutions. Instead, the film offers a stark, unflinching look at the human capacity for both profound love and terrifying self-deception, particularly when confronted with the ultimate inevitability of mortality. The unicorn's passing, though tragic, becomes a catalyst for a deeper, albeit painful, understanding of the family's own fractured existence. Brewer's vision here is not one of judgment, but of observation, presenting a world where magic might be fading, but the complexities of the human heart remain, for better or for worse, eternally present. The film's lasting impact lies in its ability to provoke contemplation on these themes, solidifying its place as a thought-provoking and artistically significant piece of contemporary cinema. The film's lasting impression is not one of definitive closure, but rather a haunting echo of the family's unresolved internal conflicts. The unicorn's passing, rather than offering catharsis, merely shifts the focus to the enduring weight of their shared history and individual guilt. Anya Taylor-Joy's performance culminates in a quiet despair, a silent acknowledgement of the irreversible damage wrought by their collective choices. Her character's journey becomes a cautionary tale about the seductive nature of privilege and the devastating consequences of failing to confront one's own shadow self. One can envision her drawing strength from the raw, unvarnished emotional landscapes explored in films like Manchester by the Sea, where profound grief and regret are etched onto the very fabric of a character's being. Her ability to convey such deep emotional resonance through subtle expressions and restrained physicality is a testament to her evolving artistry, allowing the audience to feel the full, crushing weight of her unspoken sorrow. The supporting cast, each playing their part in the unraveling of familial cohesion, further solidifies the film's commentary on human frailty. Their interactions, characterized by passive aggression, thinly veiled resentment, and desperate attempts to maintain a semblance of normalcy, paint a bleak picture of familial obligation warped by self-interest. The film avoids simplistic good versus evil narratives, instead delving into the messy, often contradictory motivations that drive human behavior. This nuanced portrayal of flawed individuals wrestling with their own demons within the confines of a shared tragedy suggests an inspiration drawn from the complex character studies found in the works of Anton Chekhov, where the unspoken anxieties and subtle shifts in social dynamics reveal profound truths about the human condition. The humor, often arising from the characters' ineptitude and their inability to truly connect with one another, underscores the tragic absurdity of their situation, highlighting the vast chasm between their perceived sophistication and their fundamental lack of emotional maturity. Visually, the film's conclusion reinforces the sense of melancholic decay. The opulent estate, once a symbol of aspirational grandeur, now feels like a monument to their arrested development, its faded elegance a stark contrast to the moral rot that has taken root. Brewer's directorial vision, characterized by its meticulous attention to detail and its ability to imbue settings with emotional resonance, culminates in an aesthetic that is both beautiful and deeply unsettling. The lingering shots of desolate rooms, dust motes dancing in shafts of fading light, and the oppressive stillness of the surrounding landscape all contribute to a pervasive sense of loss and finality. This visual storytelling, which prioritizes atmosphere and subtext, draws parallels to the somber beauty and psychological depth found in the films of Ingmar Bergman, where the stark realities of life and death are explored with an unflinching gaze. The film's deliberate use of a subdued color palette, broken only by the fleeting spectral glow of the unicorn, creates a visual narrative that is as emotionally charged as it is artistically compelling, leaving the audience with a profound and lingering sense of disquiet. The film's lingering resonance lies in its masterful portrayal of inherited burdens and the suffocating weight of expectation, especially as the unicorn's final moments approach. Anya Taylor-Joy's character, in particular, embodies this generational inheritance of anxiety and unspoken obligation. Her transformation from a seemingly composed woman of means to one teetering on the edge of moral compromise is a slow, agonizing burn. The audience witnesses her internal struggle, the subtle tremor in her hands, the flicker of fear in her eyes as she grapples with decisions that betray her supposed upbringing. This nuanced performance suggests an artist deeply attuned to the psychological toll of societal pressures and familial legacies. One can imagine her drawing inspiration from the quiet desperation of characters in classic dramas, where the facade of respectability barely conceals inner turmoil, or perhaps even from the existential angst portrayed in the works of European art house cinema, where the mundane is infused with profound psychological weight. Her career thus far has consistently showcased a fascination with complex, often troubled female characters, making her interpretation of this role feel both authentic and deeply unsettling. The ensemble cast, a collection of flawed individuals each nursing their own resentments and anxieties, functions as a perfect counterpoint to Taylor-Joy's central performance. Their interactions are a masterclass in passive aggression and thinly veiled desperation, revealing a family unit held together by a fragile thread of shared history and mutual dependency. The film eschews easy moral judgments, instead opting to expose the messy, often contradictory motivations that drive people, particularly when confronted with mortality and the specter of financial ruin. This commitment to depicting flawed, human characters, even in the most absurd of circumstances, is what imbues the narrative with its profound emotional impact. The humor, when it surfaces, is razor-sharp and often derived from the sheer ridiculousness of their predicament, acting as a brief, sardonic respite from the pervasive sense of dread. This ability to weave biting wit with moments of genuine pathos is a hallmark of Brewer's directorial style, suggesting an admiration for the tonal balancing act seen in the works of filmmakers like the Coen brothers or the darkly comedic sagas of Martin McDonagh. Visually, the film's aesthetic continues to be a critical component in its storytelling. The opulent yet increasingly neglected family estate becomes a character in its own right, its faded grandeur mirroring the decaying moral compass of its inhabitants. Brewer's direction imbues the setting with a palpable sense of history and melancholy, each dusty heirloom an overgrown garden whispering tales of past glories and present decay. The visual language, a deliberate blend of the surreal and the hyperreal, creates an atmosphere that is both captivating and deeply unnerving. The deliberate use of shadow and light, the carefully composed frames that often feel like meticulously crafted still lifes, draw parallels to the work of directors like Wes Anderson, albeit with a considerably darker and more disquieting sensibility. The inspiration for this visual richness could easily stem from the unsettling dreamscapes of surrealist painters or the haunting atmosphere of Gothic literature, where the familiar is rendered strange and foreboding. The unicorn itself, when glimpsed, is presented with a spectral beauty, its ethereal glow a stark, heartbreaking contrast to the grim realities that surround it, serving as a poignant reminder of the magic that is being lost, both within the narrative and, perhaps, in the world at large. The film's exploration of grief is not a singular linear path, but a fractured landscape, with each character navigating their impending loss through drastically different and often self-destructive means. Anya Taylor-Joy's portrayal is particularly arresting in its depiction of a woman whose carefully constructed facade begins to crumble under the immense pressure of her family's secrets and the unicorn's decline. Her character's moments of intense introspection, the silent screams caught in her throat, and the desperate attempts to control the uncontrollable all speak to a deep-seated fear of vulnerability. This is a performance that transcends mere acting. It's an embodiment of the suffocating weight of inherited trauma and the paralyzing fear of the unknown. Her career, marked by a penchant for roles that delve into the psychological depths of female experience, has undoubtedly prepared her for this, allowing her to channel influences ranging from the quiet desperation of Bette Davis in her later years to the raw emotional power seen in contemporary cinematic explorations of female anguish. The inspiration here could also be drawn from the introspective narratives of authors like Virginia Woolf, whose characters grapple with the ephemeral nature of consciousness and the overwhelming force of inner turmoil. The supporting characters, each a distinct shade of dysfunction, contribute to the rich tapestry of familial discord. Their individual coping mechanisms, denial, manipulation, outright panic, are presented not as deliberate acts of malice, but as desperate attempts to maintain some semblance of control in a world that is rapidly spiraling into chaos. The film excels at showing how deeply ingrained patterns of behavior, passed down through generations, can lead to devastating consequences. The humor, when it arises, is a gallows humor, a coping mechanism that allows the characters, and by extension the audience, to momentarily laugh at the sheer absurdity of their situation before the weight of reality crashes down again. This masterful blending of comedy and tragedy, often achieved through dialogue that is simultaneously witty and devastatingly bleak, suggests a keen understanding of storytelling traditions that have long explored the human condition through a darkly comedic lens, perhaps influenced by the works of playwrights like Eugene O'Neill or the cinematic sagas of the Coen brothers, where moral ambiguity and profound human suffering are often intertwined with a peculiar brand of dark humor. Visually, the film's aesthetic serves as a powerful amplifier of its thematic concerns. The opulent yet decaying family estate is a character in itself, its once grand halls now echoing with the ghosts of past indiscretions and the palpable sense of impending doom. Brewer's directorial eye for detail is evident in every frame, from the dust motes dancing in shafts of sunlight to the unsettling stillness of the manicured gardens, all contributing to an atmosphere of melancholic beauty and quiet dread. The visual language, a deliberate juxtaposition of the familiar and the uncanny, creates a dreamlike quality that blurs the lines between reality and hallucination, mirroring the characters' increasingly distorted perceptions. This deliberate use of mise-en-scène, where the environment itself seems to bear the weight of unspoken secrets and emotional decay, draws parallels to the hauntingly atmospheric worlds created by filmmakers like Guillermo del Toro, who masterfully blends the fantastical with a grounded, often unsettling realism. The unicorn itself, when glimpsed, is rendered with an ethereal, almost spectral beauty, its otherworldly presence a stark, heartbreaking contrast to the grim, earthbound reality of its decline, serving as a poignant symbol of the fading magic in a world increasingly devoid of wonder. The film's final act is a masterful descent into the inevitable, where the absurdity of the premise gives way to a profound, almost unbearable, emotional truth. The unicorn's demise is not a singular event, but a process, a slow leaching of magic that mirrors the family's own spiritual and moral exhaustion. Anya Taylor-Joy's character, having borne the brunt of the escalating desperation, reaches a point of quiet, stark realization. Her final moments are not ones of grand pronouncements or dramatic outbursts, but of profound, weary acceptance, a silent acknowledgement of the damage done and the lives irrevocably altered. This is a performance that speaks volumes in its stillness, a testament to her ability to convey immense internal turmoil with minimal external expression. Her career has consistently demonstrated a gift for portraying characters wrestling with immense psychological pressure, drawing from the deep well of human experience found in films that explore the darker facets of the psyche, perhaps channeling the quiet desperation and existential dread often explored in the works of Ingmar Bergman, or the stark, unblinking realism of Michael Haneke's cinematic portraits of familial breakdown. The supporting cast's reactions to the inevitable mirror the film's broader commentary on individual responses to collective tragedy. Each member, trapped in their own unique brand of denial or self-preservation, offers a different facet of the family's fractured reality. Their interactions, laced with the bitter undertones of a lifetime of unspoken resentments and half-truths, highlight the devastating consequences of emotional illiteracy. The humor, which persists even in the face of utter devastation, serves as a vital, albeit uncomfortable, release. It's the laughter of the damned, a desperate attempt to find levity in the abyss, and it's this unflinching embrace of the absurd that sets the film apart. This tonal tightrope walk, where profound sadness and dark comedy coexist, is a signature of Brewer's directorial prowess, echoing the sensibilities of filmmakers like the Coen brothers, whose narratives often find profound human truths in the most grotesque and absurd of situations. The visual narrative of the film culminates in a hauntingly beautiful tableau of decay. The opulent estate, once a symbol of power and prestige, now stands as a monument to their moral and emotional bankruptcy. The meticulously crafted frames, often imbued with a painterly quality, capture the melancholic grandeur of their surroundings, the fading light filtering through dusty windows, casting long shadows that symbolize the encroaching darkness. The film's visual language is a testament to Brewer's ability to imbue setting with profound emotional resonance, drawing parallels to the atmospheric richness found in the films of Guillermo del Toro, who masterfully blends the fantastical with a palpable sense of historical weight and decaying beauty. The unicorn, now a fading whisper of its former glory, becomes a spectral presence. Its ethereal glow, a poignant counterpoint to the grim reality of human nature laid bare. A final, heartbreaking reminder of the magic that has been lost and the enduring, often tragic complexities of the human heart. The film's resolution offers no easy catharsis, instead leaving the audience with a profound sense of the enduring complexities of human nature, amplified by the family's inherited wealth and the suffocating expectations that accompany it. Anya Taylor-Joy's portrayal of the elder sister reaches its zenith in a quiet, devastating surrender. Her journey from poised heiress to a woman irrevocably shaped by the absurd tragedy of the unicorn's demise is marked by a profound emotional realism. The subtle shifts in her gaze, the slump of her shoulders, the almost imperceptible tremor in her voice, all convey a lifetime of internal conflict and the crushing weight of inescapable destiny. Her career, characterized by a remarkable ability to inhabit characters teetering on the edge of psychological collapse, has clearly prepared her for such a nuanced performance. One can envision her drawing inspiration from the unflinching portrayals of female vulnerability and resilience in films, by directors like Lynn Ramsey, or the introspective journeys of characters in the works of Eric Romer, where ordinary lives are imbued with extraordinary emotional weight. The film's exploration of her character's deep-seated fear of inadequacy, exacerbated by the family's opulent but emotionally barren environment, resonates deeply. The supporting cast members, each a distinct embodiment of familial dysfunction, contribute significantly to the film's exploration of shared trauma and individual coping mechanisms. Their interactions, fraught with passive aggression, thinly veiled resentment, and desperate attempts to control the narrative, paint a bleak yet darkly comedic picture of a family unraveling under duress. The humor, often derived from their misguided attempts at problem-solving or their self-serving rationalizations, serves as a crucial outlet for the pervasive tension, allowing the audience to laugh at the absurdity while simultaneously acknowledging the underlying tragedy. This delicate balance between the macabre and the comedic suggests a directorial influence from filmmakers like the Coen brothers or Martin McDonagh, who excel at finding the human amidst the grotesque and the absurd. Their characters' inherent flaws, their inability to truly connect with one another, and their persistent belief in their own exceptionalism highlight the film's commentary on the corrosive effects of privilege and the profound human need for meaningful connection. Visually, the film's conclusion reinforces the pervasive atmosphere of melancholic decay. The opulent estate, once a symbol of the family's elevated status, now feels like a decaying mausoleum, its faded grandeur a stark testament to their moral and emotional bankruptcy. Brewer's meticulous direction imbues the setting with a palpable sense of history and quiet despair. The lingering shots of dust motes dancing in shafts of fading light, the overgrown gardens hinting at neglect, and the oppressive stillness of the surrounding landscape all contribute to a profound sense of loss and irreversible change. The unicorn, now a spectral memory, becomes a poignant symbol of the magic that has been extinguished, not just from their lives, but perhaps from the world at large, leaving behind only the enduring, often painful, complexities of the human heart. The film's lasting impact is not a neat package of resolution, but a lingering, disquieting echo of the family's fractured existence and the unresolved burdens they carry. Anya Taylor-Joy's portrayal of the elder sister is a masterclass in quiet devastation. Her final composure is not one of strength, but of utter exhaustion, a profound weariness that seeps from her pores. The weight of legacy, both inherited from the opulent but emotionally barren estate and self-imposed through years of striving to maintain an impossible ideal, presses down on her with palpable force. Her journey is a stark exploration of how privilege, when divorced from genuine empathy and confronting hard truths, can lead to moral calcification and ultimately profound isolation. Her eyes, once perhaps reflecting a steely resolve, now hold a hollow gaze, a silent testament to the erosion of her spirit. One can see the echoes of characters grappling with immense internal pressure, those from the stark dramas of Fassbinder or the existential bleakness of Pinter's plays, where the absence of connection is as deafening as any scream. Her career, so often dedicated to exploring the intricate inner lives of women pushed to their limits, finds its perfect expression here, allowing her to embody the slow, agonizing surrender to circumstances far beyond her control. The supporting cast's collective dysfunction serves as a grim, often darkly humorous, reflection of the elder sister's internal struggle. Each sibling, locked in their own peculiar orbit of denial and self-deception, represents a different facet of the family's collective inability to confront reality. Their arguments are less about logic and more about the raw primal need to deflect blame and preserve a crumbling illusion of control. The humor that arises from their increasingly absurd attempts to manage the unicorn's demise is not a sign of levity, but a desperate, almost panicked attempt to inject levity into an abyss. It's the laughter of characters trapped in a gilded cage, unable to escape the consequences of their own carefully constructed lives. This ability to find the tragic within the farcical, and vice versa, is a hallmark of Brewer's directorial genius, suggesting an influence from the sardonic brilliance of Kurt Vonnegut's novels or the morally ambiguous landscapes painted by the Coen brothers, where flawed humanity is laid bare with both scathing wit and profound empathy. The decaying grandeur of the family estate, a silent witness to their unfolding tragedy, continues to loom large. Its faded tapestries, the peeling gilt on antique furniture, the overgrown gardens choked with weeds, all serve as potent visual metaphors for the family's own moral and emotional rot. Brewer's visual direction, with its meticulous attention to detail and its ability to imbue even the most mundane setting with an almost unbearable emotional weight, creates an atmosphere of suffocating beauty. The frames are composed with a painterly precision, often capturing moments of stark stillness that amplify the underlying tension. The unicorn, now a spectral memory rather than a tangible presence, becomes a haunting symbol of lost innocence and the fading possibility of genuine magic in a world increasingly dominated by pragmatism and the cold, hard realities of survival. The film's conclusion, therefore, is not an ending, but a lingering question mark, a starker reminder of the enduring and often deeply uncomfortable truths about human nature when confronted with mortality and the inescapable weight of their own choices. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Danik Port channel. If you're new here, please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up. Today we're going to be talking about the film Death of a Unicorn, coming out in 2025. The film chronicles the intertwined lives of two sisters, Clara and Isla, whose familial bond is tested by the sudden and surreal arrival of a unicorn. Their parents, Evelyn and Arthur, are depicted as striving but financially strained, a situation that perhaps subtly mirrors the precarious nature of many independent filmmakers trying to break through in the industry. Evelyn, a writer, might find parallels in her own artistic struggles with the character's desperate pursuit of a dream, while Arthur, a former actor himself, could see elements of his own early career ambitions and the compromises that often come with it in the film's narrative. Their desperation to make ends meet, a relatable theme, sets the stage for the extraordinary events that unfold. The discovery of the injured unicorn, a creature of myth and wonder, injects a potent dose of the fantastical into their otherwise mundane reality. The sisters, Clara and Isla, react with a mix of awe and a pragmatic, almost desperate understanding of its potential value. This could be seen as a commentary on how even the most magical of circumstances can be filtered through the lens of human need and ambition. Clara, perhaps more grounded and responsible, grapples with the ethical implications, while Isla, likely more impulsive and drawn to the allure of fame and fortune, sees an immediate opportunity. Their dynamic, a blend of affection and rivalry, is reminiscent of many on-screen sibling relationships that have captivated audiences, often fueled by shared dreams and divergent paths. As they attempt to conceal and care for the unicorn, the sisters find themselves in an increasingly complex and morally ambiguous situation. The pressure to exploit their discovery for personal gain intensifies, leading to clandestine meetings and questionable decisions. This descent into subterfuge can be interpreted as a metaphor for the sacrifices individuals sometimes make in their pursuit of success, particularly in fields where visibility and public perception are paramount. The film likely explores the Faustian bargain they strike, trading innocence for notoriety, a theme that has resonated through countless narratives about the corrupting influence of power and recognition. The unicorn, a symbol of purity and untamed nature, becomes an unwilling participant in their human drama, its existence a constant reminder of the ethical tightrope they walk. The narrative likely builds towards a tragic climax, where the consequences of their actions become unavoidable, leaving the audience to ponder the true cost of dreams realized through morally compromised means. The film's exploration of this theme, set against the backdrop of a fantastical creature, offers a unique and poignant commentary on the human condition and the often blurry lines between aspiration and desperation. Evelyn, the mother, a writer whose own published works, though critically acclaimed in niche circles, never quite achieved the widespread recognition she yearned for, finds a mirror to her own artistic aspirations in the family's predicament. She'd often spoken of the sheer grit required to bring a story to life, the constant hustle and the heartbreaks of rejection, which now seemed to echo in her husband's and daughter's desperate measures. Arthur, her husband, a man who'd once graced the local stage with a quiet intensity, A budding actor who'd seen opportunities dry up like desert streams, brought a performative instinct to their clandestine operations. His past life, filled with the roar of the crowd and the fleeting taste of applause, now seemed to inform his ability to craft convincing lies, a skill honed, ironically, by the very profession that had once promised him so much and ultimately offered little. He understood the hunger for a breakout moment, the desire to finally be seen, and that hunger was now a palpable force in their small, cluttered home. Clara, the elder sister, possessed a quiet strength, a responsibility that felt too heavy for her young shoulders. She carried the weight of her parents' anxieties, their hushed conversations about bills and overdue notices a constant hum in her young mind. Her love for the unicorn, initially born of wonder, quickly became tinged with a fierce protectiveness, a desire to shield the creature from the harsh realities of their world. She saw not a commodity, but a fragile miracle, a living testament to something pure and untainted. This innate empathy, perhaps a trait inherited from her mother's more contemplative writing style, put her at odds with her sister's more pragmatic, almost opportunistic, outlook. Isla, on the other hand, was a whirlwind of ambition and youthful exuberance. Her dreams were painted in broad strokes of glittering success, of red carpets and flashing cameras. The unicorn to her wasn't just a creature, it was a ticket, a golden opportunity to escape the suffocating familiarity of their struggling existence. She was quicker to embrace the deception, her infectious optimism masking a growing ruthlessness. She possessed a natural charisma, the kind that could charm the birds from the trees, a trait that had often landed her in the spotlight, albeit in smaller, less significant ways, throughout her childhood. This innate performance quality, honed through school plays and local talent shows, now served her in their increasingly elaborate charade. Her competitive spirit, always present in her interactions with Clara, now sharpened into a keen edge, fueled by the prospect of a prize that could elevate them all, but especially her. The innocent days of childhood games were long gone, replaced by a high-stakes gamble where the rules were constantly being rewritten. The unicorn's gentle presence, so vulnerable and otherworldly, served as a silent counterpoint to the rising tension between the sisters, a beautiful, bewildered captive in their unfolding human drama. The escalating secrecy and the constant fear of exposure began to wear on the family, weaving a subtle thread of paranoia through their lives. Evelyn, who had always found solace and clarity in her writing, now struggled to articulate the tangled knot of emotion she felt. The very act of creation, once a refuge, felt tainted by the deception. She would sit at her typewriter, the clack of keys usually a familiar comfort, but now each stroke felt like another brick in the wall they were building around themselves. The story of the unicorn, the fantastical element that had initially seemed like a blessing, was morphing into a dark, consuming narrative, mirroring the grim tales she sometimes explored in her more somber works. But this was their reality, far more terrifying than any fiction. Arthur, accustomed to the performative aspect of his past, found himself channeling his dramatic skills into a more desperate, unsavory performance. He became adept at the art of the alibi, the casual deflection, his once earnest gaze now holding a flicker of shrewd calculation. He saw the potential downfall looming, a stark reminder of how quickly fortunes could turn, a lesson he'd learned firsthand from the fleeting nature of the entertainment industry. This constant tension, this performance of normalcy, while harboring an extraordinary secret, was a draining ordeal, and the strain began to show in the subtle lines around his eyes and the way he held himself, a perpetual readiness for confrontation. Clara, bearing the brunt of the ethical burden, found herself increasingly isolated. Her initial awe had given way to a profound sense of guilt and a growing unease. With Isla's escalating ambition, she watched her sister transform, the bright spark in Isla's eyes now burning with a feverish intensity that frightened her. Clara yearned for the simple days before the unicorn's arrival, days filled with shared laughter and uncomplicated affection. The unicorn, sensing the discord, would often rest its head on Clara's lap, its large, liquid eyes seeming to understand her distress. It was a bond born of shared vulnerability, a silent communication that offered Clara a small measure of peace in the encroaching chaos. Her protective instincts intensified, not just for the unicorn, but for the fragile remnants of their family's former happiness. A happiness she feared was slipping through their fingers like grains of sand. Isla, however, was on an unstoppable trajectory, propelled by the intoxicating allure of what the unicorn represented. The whispers of potential buyers, the imagined headlines, the sheer power of holding something so rare and valuable, all fueled her drive. She was no longer simply seeking escape. She was actively constructing a new reality for herself, one where she held the reins. Her youthful charm, now amplified by a steely determination, made her a formidable force. She dismissed Clara's concerns as childish anxieties, her own burgeoning pragmatism bordering on ruthlessness. She saw the unicorn not as a living being to be cherished, but as a key to unlocking a life she'd only dreamed of, a life far removed from the financial anxieties that had so long plagued their household. The film likely emphasizes how this desperate pursuit of a dream, stripped of its ethical foundation, could lead to a complete erosion of innocence, transforming a family into a desperate unit bound by a shared, increasingly dangerous secret. The unicorn, the embodiment of magic and purity, became the unwitting catalyst for their descent. Its silent suffering, a stark contrast to their feverish ambition.